If you feel like the truth is being kept from us, know that you're not alone. I'm Detective Ozma, and my mission is to dig up the evidence behind the mysteries they want to bury. Tonight, I'm opening a case file that shook an entire state, a night when thousands of people looked up and saw something that defied everything they knew. March 13, 1997. Arizona, United States. From the Nevada border all the way down to Tucson, witnesses reported a massive formation of lights silently crossing the sky. It became one of the largest UFO sightings in history, a phenomenon now known as the Phoenix Lights. The deeper I dug, the clearer it became, this case wasn't just about lights. It was about silence, official silence, media silence, and maybe even something much deeper. Evidence 1, the first sightings in Nevada and northern Arizona. It began around 7:30 p.m., near Henderson, Nevada. Witnesses saw a V-shaped craft with 6 bright lights gliding southeast, completely silent. Minutes later, a former police officer in Paulden, Arizona, reported a cluster of reddish-orange lights moving in a tight wedge formation. Across Prescott and Prescott Valley, entire families stepped outside to watch the spectacle, 5 lights forming a perfect triangle, moving slowly and silently across the sky. Through binoculars, they saw the unthinkable, a dark shape between the lights, blocking out the stars. The object wasn't just lights in the sky. It was solid, vast, and eerily quiet. Evidence 2, the massive craft over Phoenix. By 8:30 p.m., hundreds of residents across the Phoenix metro area were staring up at a colossal, V-shaped object drifting silently above the city. Drivers pulled over on highways. Families pointed from their yards. Even air traffic controllers at Sky Harbor International Airport reported seeing an unknown object pass through their airspace, one that never appeared on radar. A commercial airline crew on the ground radioed in, something huge was flying overhead, unresponsive to communication. The object moved slower than any known aircraft, yet made no sound at all. Some witnesses said it was so large that its wingspan stretched across entire neighborhoods. One man said, "It blotted out the stars, the night just went black." Evidence 3, the alleged military intercept. Then came one of the strangest leads in the file. According to a report received by the National UFO Reporting Center, a whistleblower from Luke Air Force Base claimed that 2 F-15 fighter jets were scrambled that night to intercept the object. At 8:32 p.m., one pilot supposedly made visual contact with a gigantic, triangular craft near central Phoenix, but his radar went dead, flooded with static. The lights dimmed and vanished just as the jets approached. Moments later, the base allegedly went into a brief lockdown. Officially, Luke AFB denied everything the next day, saying they received no reports at all. But phone records later showed the base had received numerous public calls that very night. Coincidence? Or containment? Evidence 4, the second wave, the hovering lights. Around 10 p.m., another event lit up the Arizona sky. A line of bright, amber lights appeared over the Sierra Estrella Mountains, southwest of Phoenix. This time, multiple people, including Michael Zastan, who caught it on camcorder, watched as the lights hovered in place, then vanished one by one. This footage became world famous. The U.S. Air Force eventually claimed these were illumination flares dropped by A-10 Warthog jets during a training exercise.
If these were flares, Ryan, how do you drop flares over this distance and they stay in a perfect line? Because flares, when they drop, they come down on supposedly on parachutes, and they fall at different rates. With a book about this thick, with computations, and he says what you saw that night were planes 80 miles away dropping flares. Some people believe it's a UFO, some people believe it's military. I don't know what it was.
They even matched the timing, 10 p.m., and the location. But that explanation only covered the second wave of lights. The first event, the enormous V-shaped craft seen around 8 p.m., remained unaccounted for. Evidence 5, eyewitness testimonies. Hundreds came forward with stories that matched almost perfectly. A family in Phoenix, Tim and Bobby Lay, saw the craft glide silently overhead. When it came over us, Tim said, it was bigger than anything I've ever seen. The right wing was over me, the left wing was 2 blocks away. Others described a feeling more than fear, something between awe and disbelief. A veteran airline pilot admitted he couldn't identify it. A trucker on Interstate 17 said, I've never seen lights like that, not spotlights, not flares, something different. And one witness near Prescott, Ozma Linderman, described the object slowing, hovering, then shooting straight upward like a red oval that disappeared into the stars. If all these people were mistaken, they were remarkably consistent in what they saw. Evidence 6, the government's reaction and the mockery. For months, there was no official word. No investigation. No explanation. Then, in June 1997, Arizona Governor Fife Symington held a press conference. He told reporters his office had found who was responsible, only to have his staff walk in handcuffed, wearing an alien costume. The room burst into laughter.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Don't get him too close to me, please.
But a decade later, Symington changed his tune. In 2007, he admitted that he had seen the massive craft that night, describing it as a huge delta-shaped object, otherworldly, bigger than anything I've ever seen.
And I suspect that unless the Defense Department proves us otherwise, that it was probably some form of an alien spacecraft.
A former Air Force pilot himself, he said, I know almost every aircraft that flies. This wasn't one of them. So why joke about it back then? Symington said he was under political pressure and didn't want to cause panic. Evidence 7, silence, consequences, and legacy. One Phoenix City Councilwoman, Frances Barwood, dared to ask for an investigation. She received over 700 calls from citizens demanding answers, but her request was mocked, ignored, and ultimately cost her re-election. No official city, state, or federal investigation was ever launched. The Air Force stood by its flare explanation for the later lights, while leaving the earlier event, the massive craft, untouched. Years later, Kurt Russell, the Hollywood actor and pilot, revealed that he had been the unnamed pilot who first reported the lights to air traffic control that night. Even decades later, witnesses, from pilots to parents, stand by what they saw. Meanwhile, skeptics offered their own theories. Astronomer Mitch Stanley said he saw 5 individual planes in formation through his telescope. Others said both sets of lights were simply aircraft and flares. But no one has ever replicated the phenomenon, or explained how something that size could pass over Arizona in silence. The conclusions. When I line up the evidence, 2 versions emerge. The official explanation. The 10 p.m. lights were flares. The earlier ones, planes flying in formation. Nothing more than coincidence, confusion, and human imagination. The unofficial one. A massive craft, solid, silent, and controlled, flew over hundreds of miles of Arizona airspace. Intercepted by jets. Denied by officials. Mocked in public. And then quietly forgotten. The truth might be buried somewhere between those 2 versions, but the silence that followed speaks louder than any denial. The Phoenix Lights remain one of the most witnessed, and most unexplained, UFO cases in history. Thousands saw it. The government laughed it off. But decades later, the questions haven't faded, and the witnesses haven't changed their stories. I'm Detective Ozma, and I'll keep gathering every fragment, every voice, every piece of evidence they try to erase. Many stories get buried, but never forever. If you, or someone you know, has ever witnessed something unexplainable, leave your story in the comments. Or, if you'd rather stay anonymous, send it to the email pinned in the comments. Who knows, maybe the next file I open will be yours.